People think a village is quiet. They are wrong. A village holds secrets the way the earth holds roots deep, silent, and stubborn. My name is Dawson, and when I was 17, something happened that changed my life. It began on a night when the wind sounded like a warning. I was walking home on a narrow path beside the river. The moon was thin, the water was black. Then I saw it. A small light moving near the old bridge. At first I thought it was a fisherman, but the light was too steady, too careful. One was standing there, waiting. I stopped breathing. And then I heard my grandfather's voice in my head, an old sentence he said, whenever I asked too many questions. Dawson, the truth is not always safe, but it is always powerful. That night I didn't know what he meant. I would learn soon, because when I stepped closer, the light suddenly vanished. And in the darkness, a whisper cut through the wind. Don't go home. I froze. My heart began to hit my ribs like a fist. Who's there? I asked. No answer. Only the river, the sound of my own fear. I ran. I ran all the way home, barefoot, lungs burning, mind spinning. And when I reached my grandfather's house, the front door was open. That should not have been possible. Grandpa never left his door open at night. I stepped inside slowly. Grandpa, I called. No response. Found him sitting at the table, calm, like nothing happened. The kettle was boiling. Teacups were ready. He looked at me like he had been expecting me. Then he said something that made my blood go cold. You saw the light, I whispered. How do you know? He didn't answer. He slid a small cloth bag across the table. Inside it was a stone smooth, round, ordinary. And tied to the stone was a folded piece of paper. Grandpa said, read it. Don't speak until you finish. My hand shook. I opened the paper. The first line I saw was this. If you are reading this, it means they found me. Before I tell you what the letter said, you need to understand who I was. I grew up in a small village where the same stories were repeated every year. Work hard, stay humble, don't dream too big. In my village, the world felt far away. Cities were rumors. Success belonged to other people. My father left when I was young. He said he would return with money. He never returned. My mother worked hard and spoke little. My grandfather, Henry, raised me like a second father. Grandpa was not educated in a school, but he was educated by life. He fixed clocks, repaired radios, and read old books with torn covers. He spoke calmly, like a man who didn't need to prove anything. But there was one thing I always noticed. When people mentioned my father's name, Grandpa became quiet. Not angry. Quiet. Like a door closing inside his mind. I used to ask him, Grandpa, where did my father go? Grandpa would say, sometimes a man leaves because he is weak. Sometimes he leaves because he is hunted. I thought it was just an old man's dramatic talk. But the night of the river light, I realized something. Grandpa wasn't dramatic. He was careful. That letter tied to a stone was not a village thing. It was a danger thing. Grandpa stared at me while I read. His face had no fear, but his eyes were heavy like they carried years. And I began to read the letter from the beginning. The letter said, if you are reading this, it means they found me. Dawson, I don't have much time. Don't know me, but I know you. I have watched you from a distance because I had to. Listen carefully. Your father did not disappear because he stopped loving you. He disappeared because he saw something he was not supposed to see. My mouth went dry. Grandpa's hands tightened slightly, but he stayed silent. The letter continued. Years ago, your father worked at a place where people moved money like it was air. He learned the truth about powerful men, how they steal, how they hide, how they silence. He tried to leave quietly, but you cannot leave a cage when the cage needs your silence. So he ran back toward the only person he trusted, Henry, my grandfather's name. I felt my stomach twist. The letter said, Henry helped him escape. But your father made one mistake. He trusted someone he should not have trusted. And that betrayal has been waiting for years. My hand shook so much that the paper crinkled. I looked up at Grandpa. He finally spoke. He said, keep reading. The letter continued. They will come to the village, not loudly, quietly like a snake. They are not looking for money. They are looking for proof. Your father kept a record. Lists names, transactions, dates. That record is hidden. Henry knows where it is. Dawson, you must decide what kind of man you will be. You can stay small and safe, or you can become strong and free. But understand this, Safety is not guaranteed. Not in the world you live in, not in any world. If you choose freedom, do not choose it with anger. Choose it with discipline. Discipline is the only protection that lasts. Then the letter ended with a sentence that hit me like lightning. The record is under the stone where the river turns, and the tree leans like a tired man. I stared at Grandpa. He looked older than ever. I whispered, Grandpa, what is this? Grandpa took a slow breath. Then he said, your father is alive. My heart stopped. He continued, and if we do the wrong thing next, he will die. Grandpa stood up and locked the door. He pulled the curtain and looked outside. Then he sat back down and said, Dawson, you're about to learn what fear does to men. He told me the truth. Years ago, my father found evidence of corruption. People with power were stealing from ordinary families. My father wanted to expose them, but he wasn't powerful enough, so he ran. He ran to Grandpa. Grandpa hit him and helped him disappear, not because Grandpa liked trouble, because Grandpa believed in justice. But the people my father exposed were patient. They didn't chase him loudly. They waited. Grandpa said, when you are powerful, you don't run. You wait. I asked, why now? Why the light by the bridge? Grandpa's voice became colder. Because someone in this village is talking. I felt sick, Grandpa said. There is a man here who likes money more than dignity. He didn't say the name. But he didn't have to. I knew. Every village has a man like that, always friendly, always listening, always asking questions, always near the wrong people. I said, so, what do we do? Grandpa looked at me and said, we do what disciplined men do. We do not panic. We do not run in the dark. We plan. Then Grandpa gave me 3 instructions, simple, clear, and terrifying. 1. Tomorrow morning, you will act normal. 2. You will not tell your mother. Not yet. 3. At sunrise, you and I will go to the place described in the letter. I said, why at sunrise? Grandpa answered. Because at sunrise, people are sleeping or working, and truth loves quiet. That night I could not sleep. I kept hearing the whisper at the bridge, don't go home. I kept seeing the light vanish. I kept thinking about my father, alive somewhere, and I realized something else. My life had been small. My worries had been small. Now everything became larger than the village. The next morning, I forced myself to eat. Grandpa drank tea calmly. Then he put on an old jacket and said, let's go. We walked toward the river. The air was cold. Just before we reached the turning point, Grandpa stopped. He whispered, look behind us. I turned. My blood turned to ice. Someone was following us. It was Mr. Sorona, village man, who smiled too much and asked too many questions. He waved at us, pretending it was a coincidence. Good morning, he called. Grandpa waved back like nothing was wrong. I tried to breathe normally. Mr. Soren walked closer. Going for a walk, he asked. Grandpa replied calmly, old bones need air. Mr. Soren laughed. True, true. Then he looked at me. His eyes stayed on me too long. That boy's growing, he said. Grandpa replied, yes, he is learning. Something in Grandpa's tone made the air sharper. Mr. Soren's smile weakened for a second. Then it returned. Enjoy your walk, he said, and he turned away. Slowly, like he wasn't finished. Grandpa waited until he was out of sight. Then Grandpa whispered, now we move faster. We followed the river to a bend where the current changed. There it was. A leaning tree, curved like a tired man. Grandpa stepped closer. He looked at the ground. Then he pointed. A stone sat near the roots, half buried, perfectly ordinary. Grandpa knelt. He reached beneath it. His fingers touched something wrapped in oilcloth. Pulled it out. It was a small metal box. My throat tightened. Grandpa opened it. Inside was a notebook. Old pages, numbers, names, dates, evidence. The record. Grandpa closed the box immediately. Looked at me and said, now the real test begins. I asked, what do we do with it? Grandpa said, we do not give it to the wrong hands. And we do not keep it here. I felt my hand shake. Grandpa said, your father has a contact. Someone who can protect this. I asked, who? Grandpa said, a journalist. The word felt dangerous. Journalists make noise. Noise attracts predators. Grandpa continued, we will move it tonight, when the village is loud with evening routines. I whispered, and Mr. Soren, Grandpa said, he will try to stop us. He will not be alone. Then Grandpa did something unexpected. He smiled. Not a happy smile. A prepared smile. He said, "Dawson, this is the moment where boys become men, not by fighting, by thinking." That day felt longer than any day in my life. And that night, as the sun fell, Grandpa gave me the most important advice I have ever heard. Grandpa said, "You asked me once about happiness?" I nodded. He said, "Happiness is not laughter. Happiness is freedom from fear." He tapped the box. "When you live a life of discipline and truth, you can sleep. When you live a life of lies and shortcuts, you never rest even in a soft bed," he continued. "People think discipline is suffering, but discipline is protection. Discipline protects your future from your weak moments." He gave me 4 rules for the night. Rule 1, say less. Rule 2, move calmly. Rule 3, do not look guilty. Rule 4, if we are stopped, we do not argue. We change direction. I asked Grandpa, "Are you afraid?" He looked at me and said something I'll never forget. "I am afraid, but I am not controlled." Courage is not the absence of fear. It is obedience to purpose. Night came. The village lights flickered. People talked. Children played. That noise was our cover. We left the house quietly. Grandpa carried the box inside a cloth bag. We walked toward the road that led out of the village, and then we saw it. A car parked near the trees. Not a village car, city car. My chest tightened. Grandpa whispered, "Stay behind me." A man stepped out. He wore a clean coat and a calm face. He wasn't smiling, but he wasn't angry. He looked official, he said. "Henry." Grandpa froze. The man looked at me. Then he said, "And this must be Dawson." Grandpa's voice was steady. "Who are you?" The man replied, "A friend of your son." My stomach dropped. "He knew my father," he continued. "We don't have time. Give me the record." Grandpa did not move. He asked, "How do I know you're real?" The man sighed. He said a sentence that cut through the night. "Because your son is dying." I felt my knees weaken. Grandpa's eyes sharpened like a blade. The man continued, "They found him. He has hours, not days." And then the man said the most dangerous thing of all. "Mr. Soren has already called them." We heard footsteps behind us. Turned. Mr. Soren was there. He was not smiling anymore. Mr. Soren stepped forward. 2 other men appeared from the shadows, not villagers, outsiders. Mr. Soren said, "Henry, you should have stayed a quiet old man." Grandpa replied calmly, "You sold your soul for money." Mr. Soren laughed. "Soul doesn't pay bills." Grandpa looked at me and whispered, "Remember, Rule 4? Change direction." Grandpa suddenly threw the cloth bag knot at the men into the river. The splash was loud. Everyone froze. Mr. Soren shouted, "No." The outsiders rushed toward the water. But Grandpa didn't throw the box. He threw a decoy. I realized it instantly. Grandpa's real box was under his jacket. Grandpa grabbed my arm and moved toward the trees, not the road. We ran, the men followed. Branches cut my face. My lungs burned. We reached an old storage shed near the field. Grandpa forced the door open. Inside was darkness and dust. We hid behind sacks. Footsteps came closer. A flashlight beam cut through cracks in the wood. My heart pounded so hard, I thought the shed would shake. Then Grandpa did something I never expected. He stepped out. He held the box in his hands. He raised it high and said, "Stop." The men froze. Grandpa looked at the friend of my father. He said, "You said my son is dying." The man nodded. Grandpa said, "Then take this." He stepped forward and handed the box to the man. Mr. Soren shouted, "He's lying. That's mine." Grandpa replied, "It was never yours." The outsider men moved, but the man in the coat lifted his hand. They stopped. He looked at Grandpa and said, "Henry, your son would be proud." Then he looked at me. He said, "Dawson, your father wanted you to grow free." He placed something in my hand, a small paper, a location and a time. He whispered, "If you want to see him, come tomorrow, alone." Then he turned and walked away with the evidence. Mr. Soren screamed in frustration, but he couldn't move. The outsiders pulled him back, and just like that, the danger was gone. Not solved, but shifted. Grandpa returned to the shed, breathing slowly. He sat down beside me. I whispered, "Grandpa." "How did you know?" Grandpa smiled, tired but peaceful. Said, "Because your father taught me." I asked, "What now?" Grandpa looked at me and said, "Now you choose your life. Do you want to stay in the village and forget this? Or do you want to leave? Learn, become strong, and finish what your father started." The next morning, I went to the location on the paper. I found a small clinic outside the city, and in a quiet room, my father, older, thinner, alive. He looked at me and cried. The first thing he said was not, "I'm sorry." He said, "I'm proud you didn't become a liar that day." I understood the real lesson. Happiness is not constant pleasure. Happiness is a life where you can respect yourself, a life where you did not trade your integrity for comfort, a life built with discipline, a life where silence is not emptiness, but preparation. And if you are listening to this story, here is the final message. You don't need to wait for danger to become serious. Be disciplined now. Be honest now. Build your strength quietly. Why life will test you. And on that day, the only thing that will protect you is what you built in silence.